The Perimeter is brought to you in partnership with Speak Studios. Speak Studios. Speak and be heard. The Perimeter with Adam Morrison is brought to you by our official title sponsor, Mercedes-Benz of Spokane. Experience the best or nothing at Mercedes-Benz of Spokane with Dan Crowley and his exceptional team. They're located in beautiful Liberty Lake and his local family-owned dealership under Gee Automotive. Their staff prides itself on a personable and memorable experience from service to sales and will have you leaving the dealership feeling satisfied with a smile on your face all the way down the road. Back-to-back winners of the Best Civil Laurel Award receive invoice pricing on any new Mercedes-Benz in stock when you come in and mention the Perimeter Podcast. You can check out all their available inventory at SpokaneMercedes.com, as well as stay up to date on all things Mercedes-Benz via their Facebook and Instagram pages. Call them at 509-455-9100 to schedule your Mercedes test drive today. 3, 2, 1. You good? You like to clap? All right, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Perimeter Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Morrison. I got a special guest, good friend of mine, Dan Katz of Barstool Sports. Thanks for coming on, man.
Dude, I'm very, very excited. This is a full circle moment, to say the least, for you to have a podcast and me to be able to be on your podcast after the history of our relationship.
Yeah, no, it is kind of a circle of life thing right now, so I'm excited about it. Again, thanks for coming on. Thanks for having us all the way out in New York. You guys got a beautiful studio. It looks
you don't
like
have to say that. You
looks
know
like
it's
shit,
a dump.
but it's a dump. But
it's a total dump.
Got some cool memorabilia on the wall. I had a jersey for you, actually, and I'll mail it to you as long as it doesn't go in the pile.
Yes, I will.
But
I'll frame it. I'll frame that.
I have a jersey where it's me on the front with, like, when I was playing with a stash and everything, and then Bobcats on the back. So I just figured I had it laid out too, and I washed it and everything for it.
All right,
I'll get
that's
it to
the
you.
worst gift ever because you just were like, "Hey, this thing was so sweet," and I was gonna bring it, and
Good
I
point.
didn't. But I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
I will absolutely put that up.
We'll find a space for
we'll
it as
find a
long as
spot
it doesn't
between
go.
Coach O and the Cubs.
As long as it doesn't go in the pile, is that all right?
I can't promise that, but guess what? Here's what I'll say: is the pile. For people who don't know, it's basically just the corner of my office. People send me stuff constantly, and I'm a hoarder by nature to begin with, but I've weaponized the pile for the greater good, so I auction it off every year or so for charity.
Yeah, no, you
so
do
now
well
people
with it.
can't complain for me being messy. It's probably the most genius thing I've done.
Yeah, like I said, as long as it doesn't get if it goes to charity, then I'll live with it. But,
Okay, perfect.
All right, so let's get into how we first met.
Yes.
So what was it? February? You guys started the show 2016? February?
So, yeah, we started the show February 29th, 2016 was the first episode of Part of My Take.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So I'm sitting there minding my own business, kind of faded off into the sunset, and I opened all my social media, and it's Adam Morrison has a bunker. Adam Morrison's unhinged, owns all these guns, and Barstool Sports, Kyle Wiltshire. So I'm kind of what the fuck, kind of pissed off, obviously. So I start texting everybody. I get a hold of Wiltshire, and he gives me your number. So I remember texting you and being like, hey, can I talk to you on the phone? And it was a contentious first phone call. Do you remember me telling you I was going to sue you guys if you didn't let me come on?
I forgot that part.
Remember that?
Yeah. Shit.
It was
because we've been so friendly since that moment.
Yeah.
But I forgot that. Yeah, you're right. So from our perspective, we start this podcast. I think it was probably the second or third week of the podcast. Maybe I don't know, the 14th episode. I'm just throwing that out there. But it was sometime during March Madness, right before March Madness started. Hank, our producer, knew someone on Kentucky who knew Kyle Wiltshire when he was on Kentucky. We were looking for guests. We're just starting out. He's like, hey, we have Kyle Wiltshire. He's playing, obviously, in Gonzaga. They, are playing. They're good this year. They're playing in March Madness. And so we're like, great. And we started talking to him, and we started talking about you, and he did say, he was like, yeah, he's got a bunker and all this stuff. And then we woke up the next morning, and it was like, fuck, this is now becoming a story. And it was, admittedly for us, our first big break, so I owe you that, because it was our first time that people were like, pardon my take. And if you go through the list, like I always talk about, there's a list of things that happened to get part of my take to number one. And this was absolutely the number one first thing to happen.
Yeah.
And I forgot that we did have a contentious exchange. I felt bad though.
You were nice about it.
Yeah, no, I felt bad because I was like, my philosophy when it comes to doing podcasts, having guests on, doing content, is I never want anyone to walk away feeling bad about themselves. Yeah. I always want people to feel like they had a good, busting balls, having fun, making jokes, like making fun of each other. That's all cool. But I don't want anyone ever to walk away and be like, man, that sucked. Like I don't. Assholes. Yeah, that was an asshole experience. So I definitely felt bad, but I also think you were like, you got to take it down. We're like, we can't. And yeah, then we had you on, and it was like start of a friendship.
Yeah, it was. So, like I said, I was minding my own business, and I remember that evening I think my daughter was probably 7 or 8 at the time, so I go to her practice, and fucking people are looking at me like I'm David Koresh, Ted Kaczynski, and, so I'm hot. But you were like, all right, I'll let you come on, the next day or 2 days or whatever it was. And it's funny, I still have people, like just random people like, hey, man, I remember your PMT episode. I loved it. And it was kind of cool in a sense because you guys gave me an opportunity to, like, explain myself. Like, sometimes when you get a gotcha moment, some people will just be like, I got you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
obviously, and then take all the whatever came about it and not give somebody a chance to explain themselves. And then you guys were cool about it. Like, you didn't, like, you let me explain it, but you didn't, like, hammer me into a corner and be like, no, you really got one, don't you? Because I had to do, I had 3 interviews come in, what's the Sports Illustrated did one, and then another, I think Bleacher Report did one. And so I had to explain that I'm not like a psycho, right-wing nutcase, right? So yeah, it was just interesting first way to kind of meet somebody.
Yeah, very interesting. And it's it was also having you on was great because, I'm 36 years old. I remember your rise. I remember you in college. Whenever I think about I'm a big looking back now as you get a little older. It's like we were having this conversation about Tim Tebow. I don't like Tim Tebow. I think he's a little bit of a attention seeker, all these things. He's not going to make the team. But I also can recognize I have fond memories of watching Tim Tebow in college, and he was one of the greatest college football players of all time. I have fond memories of watching you play in college and moments that are maybe not your best moments, but moments that are etched in my mind where I'm like, this dude was awesome and he was cool for the sport, and it was fucking you don't lose those moments. So when you hit me up, I was a little starstruck, and it was crazy that it all worked out. Now, do you still have the bunker? It's just off-site? What is
It's obviously I think I've explained it on your guys' show on PMT, but it's just Washington law requires you to have safes, but if you have an open room with firearms, you have to have a door with a lock on it. So it's a storage room.
Good law.
Great law.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I pride myself, I guess, on being a responsible gun owner, and I really do. And so it's just a room with other safes in it.
Could you imagine though? That doesn't really play if it was Adam Morrison, responsible gun owner.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, it was so crazy though. New York Post had a thing unhinged and all this shit, and so I literally I had to do a media tour. And then you have to get into the, how come you don't play anymore? How come your NBA career was shitty?
See, I feel bad.
You know
what
I'm saying?
Yeah,
so then I'm I'm just minding my own business. I'm a dad, blah, blah, blah. My lifestyle's good, and I'm just staying out of the limelight, and then I get thrown back into it. But like I said, it was an interesting way to meet somebody, and I'm glad my embarrassment helped you guys have some success.
Yeah, no,
you know
it did.
I mean?
I owe you for sure. We've had you on since.
Oh yeah, it's been great.
It's awesome. Yeah, I mean it's great that a friendship was born out of it. That's the perfect story ending to me is these type of moments happen, and then you get a new friend out of it. You're like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, and like I said, you guys handled it right, and I really mean that, not to get sappy or anything, but you guys gave me an opportunity to speak my mind, explain myself, and then you guys weren't giving me shit the whole time.
Now, the other like underrated part of the story that I don't ever think gets talked about is Gonzaga went out and just laid an egg. And I think like we might have had something to do with that, like Kyle Wiltshire feeling like, oh fuck, I fucked up. Because the game was in Chicago. Who did they lose to? It was first round game.
Oh yeah, no, was that the Syracuse year?
It might have been.
I think it might have been the Syracuse year where they were up. Yeah, but you're right. They did.
They laid a total egg, and I was sitting there the whole time being like,
well, and I felt bad too because like you said, it was like unnecessary publicity for those guys.
Right.
And
right.
He didn't mean it out of hate.
It was a total offhand comment
that
got just picked up.
And I was pissed at the time. I mean, I literally went to a lawyer's office.
Really?
Yeah, man. I mean, because I'm sitting there like, I have to explain myself, and I don't know like what defamation what it comes down to, but
no one does.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what my lawyer said. They're like, well, hey man, like you can try, but
also our defense would have just been my bad.
Exactly. And then you can always say like you're technically in the public light, so people can say whatever the fuck they want about you. But yeah, anyway, I always start the shows with kind of how I know people and the connection.
It's
and
a great one. It's definitely probably the weirdest one.
It's
probably a little different than Mark Few.
Very true, but so that's how we came to know each other. It was like I said, my embarrassment helped you guys become a little bit. Obviously, you guys.
I give you. Listen, I don't underrate that. Like I said, there's a few moments, and that's definitely one of them.
Oh, I appreciate it. So, the next thing I want to talk about is like, how did you start? Because you're like an OG podcaster, and everybody knows that. Like when you first came to Barstool, you're a freelance writer, sports writer.
Yeah, I was actually working in real estate in Chicago. I had the worst real estate career of all time. I started right out of college, and it was 2007. And
Wisconsin grad. Right?
Yeah, and we know what happened in 2008. The whole world exploded. Yeah. And then I got out of real estate in 2012, right when everything was bouncing back.
Oh, so good job.
Yeah, no, the worst. Like that.
Smooth.
That tells me right there it was not the job for me. But yeah, Barstool back in the day was weird, man. It was totally different than it is now. We're obviously in the office right now. Like there's 200 people. Back in the day, there was like maybe 7 or 8 of us, and all we would do is blog every day, nonstop. And we started podcasting. KFC, who credit to him, because he basically was like this new thing, podcasting, and like everyone knows of podcasting now, but in 2000, I think it was probably 2013, he was like, hey, I want to try this thing out. And I was lucky enough to be on it with him on his KFC radio show. And it's crazy to think back, like how new it was, how different it was. And also, like you just said, how long I've been doing it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of recorded things over the years.
Yeah. So like when you started it, did you have, I mean, obviously you don't know the success you're going to have, but did you have an idea like maybe I have a niche for this and I can make this into like a career and make it my main focus? Or were you just like, I'm going to be a freelance writer and keep writing and try to get on like a newspaper or a beat writer or something like that?
So that's a great question, because I basically, when I started, when I was 20, I was 27, and I essentially said to myself, I'm going to give it till I'm about 30 to see if this like becomes a career. And because it's hard to tell people in your life like I'm a blogger, you know what I mean? Like it's not really
anybody could fucking
right. Everyone just looks at you like, dude, you what? Like get a real job
for like sports media too. Like I'd have guys when I was playing in LA be like, hey, I'm a part of a blog. Like, you fucking kidding?
Yeah, right.
Cool, man.
Right. Now it's
like,
different.
It's
now
different
I think
now,
it's totally different. I think some of the best writers can be qualified as bloggers now. But in 2012, it's like bloggers were literally the dudes that everyone made fun of, being like, "Oh, you're a fanboy," like just sitting
absolutely.
in your boxers. Which, by the way, was true. I was literally spent most of my days sitting in my boxers, writing on the internet. So that wasn't wrong.
Internet poker on the side? Are you one of those guys too?
Right. It's like I just fucking sat there. So, but I remember telling myself like I'm gonna give it a few years, and as crazy as the rise of Barstool feels, it really like it was a process where if I look back and I think about it, it's like you have these little moments that are big, like, the Blackhawks win the Stanley Cup in 2013. Like I was lucky enough to like party with some of the guys. Like that was a moment. Like we start doing some video content in later 2013, 2014. Like people start being like, oh, these guys are funny on video, not just written word. Like little things come along, and it was never a moment where I was like, oh, this is actually going to work. But it just kind of
gained momentum.
Kind of all came together where I woke up one day and I was like, this is my career. I think this is my career. And now I will say, and I this is something that I think Dave has talked about, Dave Portnoy. I don't know if I've ever really explained it, but there was a moment. So the Chernin deal happened in 2016. Peter Chernin Group bought us.
Yeah.
That right before that moment, I was kind of like not ready to leave Barstool, but I was definitely tired because what we were doing is we were blogging 12 blogs a day, every single day, sitting at our computer, like just grinding.
Content.
And it was one of those things where I said to myself, I don't know if I can do this when I'm 40.
Yeah.
So you have that like existential crisis where you're like, all right, I'm only 31, but like, can you see yourself doing this when you're 40?
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
And then Chernin comes along and it's like, hey, we're not going to just keep blogging ourselves to death. We're going to try new things. We're going to have money invested. I think it kind of saved everyone. And like my relationship with Dave, my relationship with Kevin, all of us felt reinvigorated. And it's like, let's push to something new.
That's very interesting. Cause I always, when I've, like you said, with like freelance writers and stuff, and sometimes guys can be, really poignant and have, think outside the box. They're not connected to like a corporation or a newspaper, but also like there's been guys, like I said, when I played in LA and the herd of media would come in and, I wouldn't be obviously getting the main guys, but the side guy would be from fucking something.com. Like,
right.
Dude, fuck you.
Right.
Like, who
right.
cares, man?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, just answer your couple questions. Yes, I'm type 1 diabetic. Yes, I don't play very much. Shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, leave
but
me
now
alone.
Those guys are like the guys.
I know.
think.
That's
Some
why
of the
it's wild. That's
smartest
what I'm
guys.
saying. It's different now, but at that time, I imagine, your hesitation with staying in that was very valid.
It was obviously Dave Portnoy took the biggest risk of anyone here, and he deserves the success he's gotten. But I do think that if you go down the list of any of the original guys, we all took certain risks to be like, hey, we're going to give this a shot. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if it's going to I don't know if we can do this forever. I don't know where this is going, because there was definitely times where it felt like, especially when we were first building that momentum and people were starting to pay attention to us, every step you take forward, like the haters and people who dislike us get louder and louder.
Oh, yeah.
So there was definitely moments where I was like, is this going to work? Like, are we going to be just like, are we going to be able to take this next step? And every time we were able to take that next step, and it was like, holy shit, we are.
Do you think that, not to get too deep into like a philosophical question or like social commentary, but like, do you think the cancel culture stuff like helps you guys on the opposite side?
I think yes. I think so Dave is so like. I don't want this just to become like a compliment Dave podcast, but I will say this. So the reason why Dave is successful and who he is he is so headstrong, and sometimes that's frustrating. But I think that there's no one else who could captain the ship in that respect. I think I have strengths that are complementary to Dave.
Yeah,
do things that he can't do. Like if Dave was starting that podcast and Adam Morrison called him up, he'd been like, "Fuck you, dude!
Fuck you!
Like,
come sue my ass,
come
fucker.
sue me!"
Yeah.
Right? And it wouldn't have started a bigger relationship. But so Dave's ability to be like, I don't really care what everyone says, is kind of like what has kept us on course. It's weird though, because like. Cancel culture is a weird thing.
Exactly. Like sometimes it's legitimate, and there's some shitty things that people say and do.
Right.
And you have to be responsible for your actions.
Right.
And then sometimes it's like, dude, just fucking chill.
Right.
So anyway.
Right. So I think the greatest lesson I've learned through it all, because it used to bother me a lot. Like it used to. I'll just say it out loud. Like it used to bother me. I remember when I did. I want to say I threw out the first pitch at Wrigley. And it was not like it wasn't a big. It wasn't.
I took
like
BP at Wrigley one time too.
Really?
So, yeah, with Dempster.
How'd you do?
I got it out of the infield. It was good enough for me. I was a shitty baseball player.
If you just get the ball in the air, that's all.
I was so hyped.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Anyway,
I wasn't like the main attraction to throw out the first pitch. So
I didn't throw out the first. I just got.
I want that on the record that like it was like a little girl me, and then like the main attraction. I can't even remember.
Right, you still are on the field.
Yeah, right. But I remember I got backlash, and everyone was shitting on Barstool and being like, and I remember that feeling and being like, man, this sucks, because not only does it suck for Barstool, but it sucks that like the Cubs are put in a position where any association with me becomes like everyone going after them. So it would bother me, and it would bother me when people would go after guests. But I reached a point, and I think it probably happened, I don't know, like 2-3 years ago, where it was like there is a certain group of people that despise Barstool, will always despise Barstool.
Yes.
And there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, you're not changing their mind. Yes.
Nothing. I can't say sorry. I can't change who I am. I can't change the content. All I can do is try to be a good person and do the right thing as I see it and make people laugh and not take myself too seriously. Yeah. And I think having that peace of mind where it's like, the people who have followed me forever, the people who know me and know who I am, know that like what I stand for and who I am.
Good energy, absolutely.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so it's a time suck to let other people try to bring that down.
You're wasting your own brain space. Totally agree.
So having that epiphany was huge, and I don't even know how I got to this point, but it's I think just realizing that, like, so cancel culture aside, just realizing that there's nothing you can do to change people's opinions of you, especially online with everyone's got an opinion. There's millions of us out there.
Yeah.
It's a freeing thought.
I've came to that conclusion about 6-7 years ago myself personally. It's like, not everybody's going to like you. People are always going to poke fun at you no matter what.
Yep.
And you can, as long as you're comfortable in your own skin and obviously you're doing the right things with the people around you and giving off good energy, like I said,
yeah.
The rest is what it is. But it's a hard thing to finally come to that point.
Right. And it also is like when I don't give a fuck if some random dude says I'm the worst person on earth. Yeah. I care if a person I worked with says I'm a bad person.
That's the best way to put it.
That's all I care about. The people who know me, the people who work with me, I think have always stood up for me and been like, he does the right thing and he's helped me, and that's all I care about. And I've reached that point where it's like, if the people around me like don't have anything bad to say about me, then I'm good. I'm good, you know?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good way to go about it, because I mean, I've worked with I did something with Bleacher Report one time, and they were fantastic. It was something for March Madness like a couple years ago, but the guy was talking to me about going on your show, and just the fucking fervor and hate that he had for Barstool.
Yeah.
And he was from here.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was just, fucking this, that, and I was just like, dude, they're not bad guys.
It's
also, you know what I'm saying? It was weird.
It's also I think what happens sometimes, and it's
crazy.
You can't say it out loud, but I really do think sometimes it's just professional jealousy.
I sense that as well, but yeah, no, I think you hit a spot on. Like, it's like, well, their career's pretty good. Their success is obviously there. So
we have a ton of fun. Like,
and
people
you guys are
watch us.
Yeah, like having a good time. The guests you guys, the content you put out is obviously fun, and it's not bore or like this, whatever. You get what I'm saying? So
yeah, there's. When you watch Barstool and what we do, we have found a way to make a living off of just pretty much having fun and bullshitting.
Yeah.
And so I would understand that I just would like some of those people to call it what it is, like, instead of taking us down for a million things. Just be like, dude, I think you're just kind of wish you had
jealous.
Like this, because this is pretty sweet and it's okay to admit it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So I'm going to segue into this. Obviously, PMT, Pardon My Take, has been, huge show. How'd you meet PFT? Like, how'd that relationship? Was there like a bromance right away, like sparks flying? I mean, because you guys have great chemistry, obviously. That doesn't need to be said, but like, you have to make sure you vibe with somebody to have the relationship and the content, and the way your guys' show flow is fantastic. Was it right away, or did you have to work on it? I remember listening to Dan Patrick one time talking about, like, he never even discussed anything with Keith Olbermann when he did the show because they wanted it to be natural.
Yep.
Is that kind of how it is?
Yeah, so I met him. It was funny because we were, we both would randomly get tagged in tweets claiming that we were stealing each other's content. Like, they'd be like, oh, PFT made that joke, or oh, Big Cat made that joke. So we started following each other, talking. He was.
Oh, so you guys like slid into each other's DMs?
Yeah,
that's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
dude.
He was in Chicago for, I think, a wedding, and I was like, hey, let's grab a beer.
Yeah.
and we grabbed a beer. We talked. This was in maybe 2015, and I was like, hey, he was working at SB Nation. I was like, hey man, like if anything ever comes up, like we should have a further conversation. We kept in touch, hung out at the Super Bowl, hung out a couple other times, and then when the Chernin thing happened, it was like, hey, we have an influx of money. We're going to be looking for new talent. And I remember the first couple times I told like Dave about PFT, he didn't fully get it. He was like, I was like, yeah, he's like misspelling things on purpose. And like Dave didn't fully understand it, which was very funny. But finally he was like, yeah, we're going to hire some new people. He was at the top of the list. And to your question about the chemistry, it really was pretty immediate. Now, it is funny to look back because we're now in year 5.5 of doing it. And I think there's obviously always ebbs and flows to a show. And, sometimes people are like, oh, the show sucks now, or the show's greater, better. Like, it goes up and down. I never really
get podcast block, like writer's block.
No, yeah, well, I think there's times where it's just like, hey, we're doing it 3 times a week.
You can't be on it all the fucking time.
But right. And I also think the element of doing a show every Sunday night, definitely, I can speak for myself. I think I speak for everyone. There's definitely times where it wears you down, where it's like, hey, I kind of wish I had a full weekend. Because it's 6 o'clock every Sunday, non-football season. 6 o'clock every Sunday, it's like, all right, time to go to work. Mm-hmm. Like, that's when people are usually winding down from their weekend, chilling out, all that. It's like, all right, now I got to get my brain fired up. But I think PFT and I have always had an ability to make each other laugh, and through the ebbs and flows, like we have a incredible working relationship. I don't know how else to describe it than like, I think it comes from a place of just like tremendous respect for each other.
Yeah, you could sense that and obviously read it, but yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and like people get surprised. Like we of course we've had disagreements, and Hank has been there from day one too, so he's definitely like a full third of the show, and then Liam and Jake and Billy also part of the show. But we've had disagreements, but there's never been a big disagreement. There's never been a big fight.
It's no Greeny and Golick where you guys are pretending and then
the only time we ever like have like true disagreements is usually at the end of like a long trip, where it's not even a disagreement. It's like we just don't want to talk to each other anymore, because all we do is talk to each other.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I think it's I'm very, very lucky to have that, and to like really enjoy the people I work with.
It's awesome, man. Yeah, you guys' show is so funny. Some of the topics on it I want to discuss, if you don't mind.
Yes.
What's with the Lenny Dykstra stuff?
Oh man,
we
had to retire that. That was old school.
I know, and that's something that I remember listening to, and I always wanted to ask you, like, kind of how did that come about, if you don't mind?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So it will be funny too for people who listen to this and they're like, wait, like, because obviously doing it for 5.5 years now, there's now people. Just a quick side tangent. We had Randy Moss on the show last week for the Kentucky Derby.
Awesome.
Randy Moss, the horse analyst.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so there was a group of people being like, I thought it was Randy Moss, the football player. It's like, well, you should have known, because he was like guest number 20 back in 2016. Yeah. So it's very funny. But yeah, Lenny. So Lenny, I don't remember how we got his number. I just remember Lenny. Let's just say Lenny's not the best guy, and we loved the story of Lenny Dykstra being like, yeah, I'm a stock savant. And I'm
didn't he go to like 30 mil, like 30X, and then go to like 30 mil and then lost it all?
He was like, I think he was making up everything. He was like, he said his record was like 525 winners and 1 loser. Which just cracked us up, because like, why even throw in the 1 loser?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
just be undefeated. The idea that was Lenny being like, I got to humble myself real quick and just throw in a loser.
One?
Yeah,
just in case. Make sure it's legit. That is funny.
So we would call him, and I think we had him on. Actually, that's how it probably started. I think we had him on because he had a new book, and he hung up on us because I asked him if he read his book, and he was like, I wrote it, and I'm like, yeah, but did you read it? And he's just like, what do you mean? I'm like, did you read your book? And he just was like, fuck you guys. So we had his number, and then we'd call him up every now and then, just be like, hey, Lenny, like, like, what's up, man? Like, see any good pussy recently? Like, and he just would always answer and like be like so crude. And then we tell him to suck our dicks. We did retire it. because there was a moment where it was like, hey, is Lenny going through some shit?
Yeah, you want to bury a guy.
Yeah, so we backed away. I think learning when to walk away from something like that was good, but it was very funny in the moment, and maybe someday we'll bring it back.
Yeah, no, it was. I remember listening to it back in the day and cracking up because you guys would like hang up on him or he's like, big,
he'd be like, you motherfuckers, like, go stop calling me.
So here's a you're a Bears fan, right?
Yep.
Here's a question because you got Coach O and you guys always talk about Coach O on the show.
Yep.
Matt Nagy or Coach O coaching the Bears? Who do you want right now?
I mean, that's Coach O. I hate Matt Nagy.
You can't stand him. I remember when they did the Andy Dalton thing and you almost broke the mic stand.
Yeah, I was so mad.
So you're happy about Justin Fields?
So happy.
Yeah,
so happy.
It's a good
He's
pick.
something so different that the Bears have never had.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let Matt Nagy and we'll see what happens this year. I think.
How does he have to get on your good side? Does he got to go like 10-6 this year?
He has to get Justin Fields bring Justin Fields along very quickly.
Does he get a year to groom him or what?
That's the problem is they basically bought their own year because they've drafted him.
Smart.
If I try to pride myself on being somewhat realistic. Obviously, the Bears are back. Things that I tweet and like getting my hopes up, that is also real. And I know that people will be like, you're not realistic ever about the Bears. I'm realistic. I know that there's still a lot of holes.
Yeah.
I need to see something out of Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace also. Like he basically was able to just get he's probably able to get a contract extension by trading away the future, which if Justin Fields is the guy, I don't care.
Yeah.
But
you can't constantly be rebuilding, so you kind of have to take a chance.
Yeah, you have to take a chance, but I'm not going to compliment him for picking Justin Fields.
It fell in his lap. You're right.
Right. Well, and also he was in a spot where he had to take him to save his job, and he screwed up the first quarterback, and he screwed up, Nick Foles, and he screwed up all these things. So getting one right after getting like 6 wrong doesn't mean you get a ton of credit.
So it's like 4th and goal. You want Coach O on the headset, instead of Matt Nagy.
Yeah,
every time.
Yeah, I mean, I think Coach O would. One of the things that he did that was
so awesome. By the way,
he's the best. One of the things he did that was very underrated was he put the right people in power around him.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Nagy hasn't done that, so
that's a good trait. It's actually, you're right. That's a good trait that all great coaches have. That I've been around. Phil Jackson was like that as well. Like he had good assistants, let him talk. Blah 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 blah. Coach Few was like that at Gonzaga, but yeah, it was always funny. Your guys' fascination with Coach O. He's so funny, man.
It started with when he was the interim head coach at USC. I made so much money because I kept on betting on USC because he just got them so fired up. And he was like,
yeah, he just seems like a rah guy,
right?
Like,
and that matters in college.
Run through the wall, and
it doesn't play.
Get hard, yeah.
So maybe I just told on myself that was a terrible answer because it doesn't play in the NFL, but it definitely matters in college.
All right, one more thing with PMT. What's your guys' Nick Saban theory? If you can. If you can go through that one.
Well,
if it's
yeah, there's a few.
What's the one after winning the national championship?
After winning the national championship, he has like a tiny little packet of lube in his back pocket that he takes out and cranks one off for like the moment of happiness because he is getting a little less robotic.
I think he's kind of figured it out a little bit. Yeah.
He's getting you can see him smile, but it always cracked me up when Nick Saban would win a big game, and he looks so angry.
Remember when they dumped the water or whatever on him, and he was like, "What the fuck?"
He's like, dude,
you just won the national championship.
What's the point of killing yourself for this job if you can't have one moment of happiness? He is, to his credit, the last couple of years, it does feel like he's genuinely happy when he wins, but
he gets
climbing up the mountain like he just was never enough. I bet you he called recruits after he wins the national championship.
Yeah, like I got to get on the horn, and I had a buddy that worked at Alabama for I think it was the Avery Johnson regime or whatever, assistant coach. And he said, like, he was so terrifying just to even walk by him in the hallway, because his aura. And then he said he has somebody, when he pulls into work, somebody will come out and then reverse his car for him so he doesn't even have to reverse his car. So it's like, that is so gangster to be able to be like, fucking reverse my car so I can just drive away.
I love it.
Yeah, I've always thought that the Nick Saban stuff is always funny.
That's awesome.
All right, so the people that listen to my show and that know me know that I'm like a big soccer fan. I remember last time I was in studio. Remember last time? When was it? Like 3 years ago?
Yeah.
I was calling the Villanova Gonzaga game. You guys had me here.
Yep.
I showed up in a full suit. It felt fucking weird. I had to make
That's
sure to tell everybody. I was like, hey, I'm calling a game in like an hour.
That might have been the old studio.
There was.
Yeah. It was down the street. But yes.
I had to like be like, I didn't show up to like go on a podcast in a full suit.
Yes.
But anyway, you were giving me shit about Chelsea, but then you revealed that you're a minority member of Swansea City. Like, how did you get into that? I think it's fascinating that you have like a connection to Premier League soccer.
Wait, I forgot you're a big Chelsea fan?
Yeah, we're in the. I've been a Chelsea fan since 2006. Didier Drogba, Michael Essien, all those guys. That's my team.
Well, this is gonna break the fourth wall. What time is your flight tonight?
We leave tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Well, so we have a guy from London who's the biggest Arsenal fan ever. He's a fucking psycho.
I have a good. This is a true story. Can I tell it?
Yes.
Okay, so I was at Luke Walton's wedding. This is absolutely true. Okay, people are gonna think it's fucking full of shit, but it's true. I was at Luke Walton's wedding. It was in Aspen. This is 2012, whenever. Stan Kroenke's there, okay? And I played against Stan's son at Missouri. So I'm outside on the patio or whatever in between the festivities. And Stan's like, hey, Adam, you played against my son when he was a senior, I was a freshman. And I knew who he was. And we start just small talking, and I've had a few. And I told him Chelsea till I die. And the look on his face, and when I was walking away, like, you know, he laughed a little bit, but I was like, I could like literally be buried by this guy and nobody would find me. But in no bullshit, I told the owner of Arsenal Chelsea till I die.
That's
so
awesome.
I'm a true Chelsea
Okay,
guy.
so to break that fourth wall, people will be listening to this a week later, but now you have to stay for the game today.
Okay.
Chelsea Arsenal, and they're doing a live watch. And he loses his mind.
Okay, yeah.
So hopefully you win.
Yes,
but it will
let's
be
hope
very
to.
fun. He also he won't know who you are because he's a London guy. He doesn't know what basketball is. It's
good.
fucking hilarious. All right, perfect. That's gonna be electric. So were you Swansea?
Yes. Okay, so how'd you get into that? Like, it's fascinating. Like, you're a minority owner of a fucking club. You guys are in the playoff, right? To go get up in the promotion, right?
Yes. Now because every time I talk about Swansea publicly, there is a group of Swansea fans that come after me and say that I'm like a fat, American, you pig, like we want to roast you, all this shit. I want it on the record, okay? I am. So I'm like a grain of I'm a grain of sand on the beach when it comes to owner of Swansea. I did it. So Matt Walsh, who you might know, played at Florida.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
he's friends of mine, longtime friend of mine. He invested, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to like get in?" I was like, "Yeah, great." Like, it's literally, I think it's $20,000. I did it because I like to joke about like, "Hey, I own a team."
Yeah.
When the idea of the joke was everyone's getting teams, everyone's in America, like, hey, I'm this fan. Like, oh, I got to pick a team. My joke was going to be, well, oh, I'm a Swansea fan. People are like, oh, what? You're like, you just pick Swansea. Like, no, I own the team. Like, that was the reason why I did it, because I wanted to have that trump card on people.
Yeah, you want to go to the cocktail party.
People who get the joke get the joke.
Yeah.
They'll be like, whenever I talk about soccer, and I love watching soccer. I do play a little bit dumb. I do know more than I let on about soccer, but I like to play dumb, troll online, and people will be like, you don't know what you're talking about. And then I'll have, my favorite thing is people will reply and be like, dude, he owns a team. And that's so funny to me.
Yeah, that's just
So Swansea fans are going to get mad about this. I listen, I'm not going to talk about the ownership. I want Swansea to go up. I have zero decisions ever. I don't talk to anyone. I don't know anything. There's the guys who own the team. I don't have their phone numbers. I don't have their emails. I've never even met them. So don't come at me, please. I want Swansea to do well. But yeah, it's been fun because I do like I like watching soccer. You know what it is for me, and it's probably different. I mean, you've been a fan for a very long time. It's partly because I love to gamble, but it's off hours. So it's Saturday morning, Sunday morning.
No commercials.
Wednesday afternoon.
No commercials.
No commercials. Tuesday afternoon. So any sport that I can watch basically to fill the day is the best to me.
What'd you think about the Super League stuff? I thought it was bonkers.
It was crazy.
It was like a day and a half.
Stupid. But then when it ended, I was like, wait, I kind of understand what they were going for.
Because like UEFA and FIFA are like the dirtiest fucking sports organizations on the planet. So like when they were trying to do the idea of it, I get they were trying to control, their own entity, get on TV more, make more money. But to have the ability not to get relegated in a sense in that Super League is pretty shitty.
Right.
Especially for like a Swansea City. That's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
But it was wild for those 2 days because they're like, no World Cup action. So you're like, shit, Ronaldo, all these teams, Messi might not be in the World Cup, blah, 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 or whatever. And then the Euros, the UEFA, and all that stuff. So
it's crazy. I think it's weird to see owners in soccer because I think what their argument is that they don't, with relegation and being like Arsenal's a good.
Relegation would save a lot of American sports problems. There would be no tanking. It'd be fantastic, but you can't do it here. I'm just saying, in theory.
Yeah, owners would never go for it because of...
Yeah, you can't do it.
That's the whole reason why they want to make a Super League because Arsenal's a perfect example this year, and Kroenke sucks, and he's the fucking worst. But his argument would be, I spent all this money, and we have like one of the top clubs, and we're not going to be playing in a European competitions next year. They want to just guarantee the money year in and year out.
Yeah, that makes
which
sense.
From a business side, I understand, but it's an inability of those guys to understand like the history of soccer and what makes it great.
You take out a Leicester City story, right? I mean, I know they won the Premier League, but the next year they get the Champions League bid and blah, blah, blah. And
they make money. They get better players.
Elevates their club, and now they're like a legit top 8 club.
Yeah, I love how it works.
That one shot in the arm could work.
I love how it works in Europe. I think the American owners just don't fundamentally understand how it works, and they just want more money, so they're greedy. But the funniest part was when it all ended. I said to myself, like, I would love to watch a Super League.
Same here. I was like, if you can give me like Bayern, Man City more,
twice a year on a Wednesday.
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
As bad of an idea as it was, and I'm happy it got ended and all this stuff. I definitely would have watched, and it would have been kind of sick to watch as a fan.
All right, so getting into talking about the Super League, you mentioned gambling earlier, like. How did your sportsbook show on Twitter with Portnoy and what's the guy Stu Feiner?
Yeah.
How did that come about? How big of a degen are you really? Like, obviously you're not a put your family in the poorhouse type of degen, but like, are you a guy that needs action every single day?
So I can't say the word degenerate anymore.
I did not know that.
Responsible gambling. No, that's okay.
I'm sorry.
So when Penn bought us,
because I'm a degen poker player.
Okay.
So that's why I threw that there.
But you play within your means.
Absolutely.
1-800-GAMBLER if you have a problem.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I love to gamble. I love to gamble. It's so much fun. It is my favorite hobby, and that's been forever. You know what I mean? Like, and I do think I joke there a little bit, but it's actually serious. Like, people need to learn how to bet within their means. They need to learn how to play,
right.
Have it be a hobby, have it be something that is fun that you can have enjoyment from, but not.
You never bet the farm.
Yeah, you're not stressed about it. You know, but I love to gamble. That show. I remember old school touts.
Because you're fit on that is you look so good, like so for real, like look so fucking. Every time I see it, I'm like, dude.
But that's a real. So Stu, that was a real show in like the late '80s, early '90s that Stu would pay to put on TV. And when we were getting more into gambling content, and Dave's always been a gambler as well, we're like, we should try to bring Stu Feiner back. We did it as a, I think we did it as a bit.
So was he like a 1-900 type of?
Right. And we did it as a video bit. He's actually a fascinating guy. He was making millions, and then with selling picks, and then he just didn't realize like the internet was about to exist.
Okay.
Which, I mean, a lot of people probably have that story, but he went from like the highest to highest to the lowest to lowest. But we like mocked his old show, and then he lives on Long Island. And I think Hank hit him up, and it's become like a relationship. Like, I love Stu Feiner. He's crazy. He's psycho. If you have to spend more than an hour with him, it will make you want to like gouge your eyes out and like box your ears in. But he's one of the sweetest guys I've ever met. Like, super family guy. Like, he's just awesome, funny. And that show it's one of the funnest things I get to do. And I think people love it because it is just so ridiculous and over the top.
How much, like, what's your all-time, I hate talking about money. Like, what's your most stressful or like biggest? You ever hit like a 5,000 to 1 or anything like that? Like
nothing
crazy
like
parlay,
that. I
parlay
did
or
just
something?
hit the Kentucky Derby, which people.
So let me ask you about that.
Yeah.
As a gambler,
Yeah.
do people get their money? Should get their money back?
No.
It's official
Well,
resorts
I
or
won,
official
so
resorts?
No. Yeah, no, definitely not.
You don't think so?
I don't think you can. It sucks, but I don't think you can. Like, you can't give people money back. Like, would you give people money back if they had
like after a Tim Donaghy game or something?
Yeah, or like the Astros winning the World Series.
It's true. No, it's a good point, but it's also fucking animals.
Sucks.
It
sucks. It sucks, but at least you get the story from it. Yeah, and
what sucks is that it takes 2 weeks to get the second fucking blood tap.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like you guys really can't speed this process up.
Yeah.
So let's give context real quick. What's the horse's name?
Medina Spirit.
Medina Spirit wins the Kentucky Derby, and then it came back
12-1. I won on that. It was awesome.
And it came back that it had what's the name of the Beth something
benzamone or something. I don't know.
It's like picograms too, which is like 12th power or something like that. In its system, and so there's a big mess about, and then the horse is still in the Preakness to go for the Triple Crown. But anyway, I've always wondered from a gambling standpoint, like how do you rectify that? Do you do a make good if you're like FanDuel or DraftKings or whomever?
Barstool Sportsbook app.
Okay, yes, that's it. Yeah. I did some with FanDuel this deal. That was the first thing I made. Anyway, I've always wondered like it's like a pro gambler or whatever we'll put it. Like
it sucks
for
the people. I'm obviously not a dime back. I gave the Jim Calhoun speech, not a dime back. But it's it sucks. It sucks for people. Did you ever get to meet Jim Calhoun?
No. The biggest like kind of prick. He's not a prick, but that vibe was Bobby Knight. Obviously,
Bobby Knight was a prick.
We played against him at Texas Tech my sophomore year, and I missed a shot late, and that was the end of our season. And then I randomly saw him in like LAX one time, and I walked directly by him, and this is pre-COVID, this is years ago obviously, and he like wouldn't even like give me a head nod, or he was just like such an asshole. And it was just, and then going back and watching that 30 for 30, and you're just like that whole fucking staff on that team too. You know what I mean? You're like,
they're bullies.
You sat there and watched the kids just get fucking ripped on and then choked, and and you didn't say anything. Like you didn't have the nuts to stand up to this guy to say like, hey man, like let's be positive. At least you can still coach and be demanding without being demeaning. But like I've always wondered, some of these guys have had careers after it in like journalism and like sports journalism. I'm like, this guy was on his staff and he fucking sat there and didn't do anything about it.
Right.
But anyway, with the Calhoun stuff.
I love that press conference. But yeah, so the to answer your question, I'm not giving any money back. But the biggest hit I've had, there's like certain games that obviously I've bet a little more because I loved it. I did hit similar to horse racing, Keeneland, the Breeders' Cup, which is awesome. If anyone can ever go to a Breeders' Cup, I hit a trifecta. It was like $50 that paid out like $7,000. That was awesome.
That's a good lick.
So that one was good.
Well, to be funny, and I said this to you off air to start. Obviously I call the games for Gonzaga, and outside is fucking the spread.
Yeah, the spread Gonzaga,
Baylor, and I was like, was this? And you're like, no, it's been up since the whole time since the game. So that's just funny.
I had Gonzaga to win the title, so that didn't work out well. Do you think they'll ever win a title?
I think, obviously this is our second title game. There was one in 2017, and then this year. I think the team and the program is heading in that direction. I think there's some factors that have to play in it. You have to matchups matter, and I don't want this to get taken out of context, and it's hard to do in today's era, but like I think officiating matters in college basketball, because there's a lot of times you'll watch games, and you talked about watching me play, and college basketball is covered different now. Like, could you name the starting five for any of the top 5 teams now? Probably not.
Right.
When I was playing, you could, and you kind of fell in love. So I think now, like, college basketball has kind of turned into a 3-week sport, and what I'm getting at is, I think the officiating needs to change to where it turns into more skill-based, and it rewards teams who are more offensive prone and skilled. Now, I don't want the Baylor fans to kill me because I was with Rem Backamus. I know him. He just left for the Arizona job. John Jacobs is my guy, so I have ties.
And Baylor would have won that game a million different times. Like, if they played 100 times, they would have won 100 times the way they were playing that night.
Yes, and I think Jalen's shot at the end didn't help to sit there for Baylor to sit there and go, you know, because the national media went fucking nuts over that shot. It was fantastic.
Right.
But they sat there and got even more pissed off and more, you know, excited for that game. But I think they can win a national championship? I honestly think they can. They just got Chet Holmgren.
It was awesome. So, all right, so here's my quick take on Gonzaga. I do think they can win the national title. The one thing that
tell me anything you want to say about Gonzaga. I don't give a shit.
No, but here's what was the biggest, like, the thing I noticed the most about the national championship game. Gonzaga, like, and do I say that right? Everyone gets mad at me.
Zags,
yeah. They just looked smaller, and I'm not talking about height. I'm just talking about
like girth,
strength, like man strength.
Yeah,
that it was men and boys, and I don't know if it's
let
the
me
type
ask you
of guy
this.
they're recruiting.
Let me ask you this: as a fan, do you want to see skilled basketball players, or do you want to see guys that?
Well, Baylor did both. Yeah.
1,000%. And I want to make sure that I'm giving Baylor their due because they were fantastic. And like I said, there's ties to that program. The names I mentioned, if they're Baylor fans, they understand that I was happy for those guys. But my point is, you watch some of these games and you watch college basketball and it'll be 55-59, and you're like, and people were like, well, how come college basketball's not fun to watch anymore? And we're like, because it's a fucking bloodbath.
It's in. And
it's
there's the skill, like the shooting level is just not even close. It's I mean, I think that's also the NBA has just gotten so fucking good.
Yes, that's and I always have to reel myself back in with that too, because I'm like, well, you know, the guy doing the pick and pop in college is obviously not, you know, fucking, you know, whomever that can just go whack, whack, whack.
Someone once said something to me. I wonder what your take is on this. That the last guy on the bench on an NBA roster would without a doubt be the best shooter on every college basketball team.
I think that's entirely accurate.
Yeah, and that kind of tells you like the skill difference. Because
go to an NBA shoot around, and Coach Few has told me this, and he kind of laughed, but he's like, you just watch guys shoot around, and it's literally the whole team's just like boom, 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 boom.
They don't miss.
Don't miss, right? And especially open jump shots. I mean, I played with guys in like Charlotte that were like, you know, throwaway players, and I mean that in the nice way, but like expansion guys, like Primo Bregic, like had a fucking flamethrower. Right, and he couldn't even like get on the court.
Right,
and so to your point, I think, you know, they have a chance to win a championship. I really think so. But I think sometimes the officiating, it turns into a fucking bloodbath always, and I get tired of, you know, watching those games because I cover 35 games a year. And I always go, people want to watch skill.
Yeah.
They do.
You're right.
You know what I'm saying? And they want to watch openness. And then I think college basketball, I think all of basketball needs to do this. I think there should be 6 fucking fouls.
Agreed.
I'm sick of watching that guy get one early.
Yep.
And then he has to go sit.
Totally
agree. So dumb. Just go 6 all the way down to high school.
Yeah.
Because it just changes the game too much.
And if you want to throw in that because it's only 40 minutes and not 48 like the
yes.
NBA, I'm fine with that. I always thought if a guy gets you call it a 6th foul, maybe the team gets 1 free throw.
Gets a free throw and check out. I think that's a fantastic rule as well, because a guy can't just sit there and hack and blah, blah, blah.
I think what they should do is they should actually do it if you get a 6th foul, you get 1 free throw. You can keep the guy in. If he gets a 7th foul, you now get 3 free throws. 8 you get 4. You just keep going up. And it's like, well, this guy's really good. Should we give up these free points?
Well, I think I'm sick of watching games, like I said, where the officiating matters too much.
Yeah.
And what I don't like about college basketball is compared to the NBA. Obviously, the skill stuff in the NBA is fantastic to watch. I think the refs don't ref in a sense of advantage, and then there's no feel of, okay, let's say I'm taking it to the cup. I get hit on the arm, but I hit a guy for a wide open dunk, but they'll call the guy getting hit on the arm.
Right.
NBA, they'll let it go so the guy gets boom, excitement.
Right.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes,
or
absolutely.
There's a rebound and the other team's going 90 feet. A guy maybe hits me on the arm. I don't lose the ball.
Right.
They're not going to call that reach because they don't want to put a guy on the bench.
Right.
the arguments, well, you shouldn't reach at 90 feet. Of course, but
Right.
they don't ref with feel.
I agree with you.
They go completely.
It's absolutely a problem. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, thanks for your take on college basketball.
Yeah, I love college basketball. I truly love.
I do too.
I watch it all. It's not a 3-week sport to me. I like watching it all season.
I say that in the sense of in the national spotlight compared to now. I love it. Obviously, I cover it. I'd like to be able to, hopefully my career goes in a direction where I can do national games and stuff, especially like on the radio. But in the way the media views it compared to times before, it's a 3-week sport.
Yeah.
The way the media covers it.
Yeah.
All right, we got a few more if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
You got plenty of time? You good?
Plenty of time.
All day?
12:30 is my next thing. I think that's like an hour and a half from now.
So what was it like doing the Corporation podcast with A-Rod? Because I've always heard mixed reviews, and I'm sure he's your guy. He always seems cool to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then, I got to be kind of the skeeve and be like, was it cool seeing J-Lo?
It was very cool. She smells incredible.
Really?
I was downwind from her when I interviewed her, and I think I said it to her at the time. I was like, "You smell incredible."
Can you say that?
Yeah.
What year was that?
That was like 2 years ago, a year and a half ago.
So you can say that.
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it was. She was. Yeah. No. I said it to her face, like, "You smell great." I think you'd say that to someone, like, "You smell great." It was cool. It was really cool. It was a little bit. It was tough schedule wise, but I got to interview some people I never thought I would get to interview. Something a little bit different. The fact that I got to interview Kobe was incredible. Yeah. So getting that access was awesome. But yeah, it was a fun experience. I really enjoyed doing it. I don't know if I don't know if it will come back at all. I'm saying probably not, just because it is impossible to get both of our schedules aligned with how much he travels, and I got a family and all that stuff. So. But it was something that I think I'll look back on 20 years from now and be like, shit, that was pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, no, he was one of my favorite players, growing up, because I'm Seattle, so Mariners.
Yeah, and the one thing about A-Rod that I don't think people understand, because he obviously gets a lot of shit, but he is very curious about things, and I think he's very curious to learn from other people, which I love that in anyone. I think anyone who has a natural curiosity is great. It's great to be around someone like that.
Yeah, I think he seems genuine too, when he does commentary and stuff like that on the desk. It doesn't seem like he's mailing it in and just well, I'm A-Rod, so
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It seems like he studies
right.
and knows what he's talking about, obviously, but that's a whole different ball of wax. So when you have to be on point, and you can tell when a guy studies or not.
Right.
That's my point. So I've always wondered, because he's been up in the neck of the woods where I live and stuff, and some people don't have a fond opinion of him. I always thought he was cool, but I always wanted to ask.
It's also I'd love to hear your take on this. So you've been around, obviously, a ton of pro athletes. Yeah. You, for a while there, this was kind of your life, but anyone who's basically been a celebrity since they were 18 years old, I always give them a little bit of a pass, because I don't think you understand how hard that must be to have the fishbowl constantly, and you don't really know
what it's like.
Anything different.
You're exactly right. I think, my fame or whatever came, and it was never on the A-Rod level, so make sure I give that context. But I was probably 21, 22 at the time, and it just came on like that. There's no way you can prepare for it,
right?
Emotionally, and then the negativity, the undeserving negativity that comes along with it. Some people deserve it if they're pricks or assholes,
right?
But sometimes people just we were talking earlier, get on the internet and just make fun of you for no reason, and you're just dude, and if you let that stuff get to you, it can really affect your personal relationships, how you view yourself. How you view others, your level of trust within other people.
Yep.
I wanted to ask you this. How is it like being famous yourself? And I know you guys always try to say you're not.
Right.
Because you're humble.
Right.
But, have you had any moments where you're like, fuck, man, I just want to have dinner, or at a bar, I want to take a selfie with you. And then you have it where a guy's being genuine, then he wants to talk to you about sports gambling for 30 minutes, and you could give a flying fuck.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I definitely have benefited from the reverse of what I just described with A-Rod, is that like I was a regular guy,
yeah.
and it also happened gradually.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like one day I was no one, the next day I was someone.
Yeah.
It was like a few people said what's up, like okay, now a few more people. So it happened very gradually over time, which I think helped me adjust. I actually, it's like our fans are awesome. Like they respect, like, especially now that I have a kid, like if they see me out with my kid, they respect my space so much. And I think there's probably part of it is like I do keep my private life private just because I like to have we're always on. We're always being filmed. So when I go home, I want to have something that's just to me and my family.
Yeah.
Like it's my
as
moments.
it should be.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So I think it makes those moments more special when you're not sharing them for millions of people to see. Like these are my moments. These are my like memories that no one can distort or take away. And also, I mean, not to go down the line, but everyone should parent however they want to parent. I fundamentally have always felt like it would be weird if I spent the first like 15 years of my son's life putting him on the internet, for him to wake up one day and be like, "Oh, I've been on the internet this whole time," like, and like, "Oh, these people made fun of me." And I don't think people would make fun of him, but there's always one guy.
There's always
right. So I've always thought like I want to give my kids and my future daughter who's a month away, like I want to give them as normal of a life as possible. So for me to do that, it's to make sure that they are protected. So a long way to answer your question is, it's our fans are so cool. It does make my day. I actually kind of missed it, weirdly enough. This is going to sound crazy, but like one of the things that kind of fucked me up on COVID is like not having any interaction with fans. Yeah. So it became just fully online. Like, and I'm not even saying like, oh, I loved having people come up and ask for a picture. It's just like, oh, what's up, big cat? You know what I mean? Like, I miss that. Yeah. I miss that. And it's coming back a little. It's
a good pick-me-up. Like, I hated it at first for my life. Because it was so difficult, and it was at the time of, cell phones weren't as prevalent. So when somebody took out a picture, it was more awkward.
Right.
Now it's like, oh, you get it. And then like, I felt like I didn't have any privacy at all. But now, like, it's usually Zag fans and stuff like that, or people that, like you said, like, hey man, I was in college or in high school when you were coming up. Fuck yeah. The stash, I'm like, people mean well, and they're just trying to make you feel better. But it's I have to give all the credit to our fan base. I think they also just like, we're regular guys to them, so it's a different level of like, we're famous in that people recognize us, but they feel like they know me, and it's like, hey, what's up? And I do love it. I love that interaction. I think it's one of the coolest things. Yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on. I think that's a good way to end it. I have to say, you like you mentioned, you're a private guy. You're having your second kid, right?
Second kid in June.
So congrats on the intercourse.
Yeah, girl.
Certified second time?
Yeah, dude. I know this sounds really cliche, but I was talking to a friend a couple weeks ago, and they were like asking me like what fatherhood is like, and it's gonna sound sappy and cliche. I know all that, but it actually like did change everything.
It gives you, not that you don't have a purpose before, but the purpose is not defined.
Right.
And then once you finally have kids, I have 3 myself, and you're like, oh, I was just kind of fucking wandering around for no reason.
Like on a when people will say, of course, there are definitely times where I'm like, oh man, it'd be nice if I could just go get fucking blacked out on a Friday night and then lay in bed on a Saturday.
Yeah.
But then I think like Saturday morning, my son and I go to the park every Saturday morning. It's by far my favorite time of the week.
It's awesome,
like
man.
By far, because it's just the best, and it's fucking cool seeing a kid like learn new things and change every day. And so it's gonna sound cliche and sappy, but when people say it changes everything, it truly changed everything. Where it's like I was just not floating, but yeah, you're right, like just kind of living your life, and now it's like, oh fuck, like there's a child there that needs me, and every moment is just so awesome. Even the bad moments are fucking cool in a weird way, because it's like,
well, they always say the days are long, the years go by fast. And
right.
I have about to be a 13-year-old, a 9-year-old, and it's going to be a 5-year-old in a couple months. Like, it goes quick, man. So enjoy the
I'm
hell
worried
out of
about
it.
that.
You know what I mean? But it's definitely gives you a different purpose in life. It allows you to see the world differently.
Totally.
It really does, especially with young girls when you have a girl, because you're like, you know, not that you view women a certain way, but you're like, hey, motherfucker, this is my daughter. When they get older, you're going to be like, hey, you better give her a fair shot, shake. You know what I'm saying? So congrats, man. You know,
I'm excited. I'm very, very excited. It's a weird feeling to have happen, but I actually, in a weird way, the only regret I have is I didn't have kids like earlier. Like I wish I was, because I think about that shit. Like I do the math in my head.
Yeah,
like,
you're gonna be like,
he's gonna be 25 and I'm gonna be fucking 60 or whatever. Yeah. It's like that kind of sucks.
Yep.
So
you can be the old guy at the graduation. And
yeah,
all that stuff.
It would have been cool to be a little younger, but that's okay.
All right. Well, Dan, I really appreciate it. And like I said, you've always been great to me earlier, and not to get weird, but like PMT has always allowed me to reveal kind of who I was without the media lens to other people. And people come up to me like, dude, I loved you on PMT. It totally changed how I thought of you as a person. So I've always appreciated that. Man. I really have, because it allowed me to be like, hey, man, I'm not this fucking weird guy or whatever. Maybe I am a little bit, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
So, and I've always appreciated you guys, allowing me to come on the show and especially doing this for me. I know you're super busy, and we're just a startup podcast
is awesome,
and stuff.
Man. This is awesome.
So thank you again. Bet on the Zags. Just don't text me on tips, because I won't give them to you. You know I love you, but yeah, man, I appreciate it.
Fair. Thanks, man. That was awesome.
Cool, man.
Good. Yeah.
If you enjoyed this episode of The Perimeter, make sure to go check out Sack and Jack, featuring 2 Zag alums, one from the court, Robert Sackery, one from the booth, Jack Ferris. That's Sack and Jack. Find it wherever you listen to podcasts. The Perimeter with Adam Morrison is brought to you in partnership with Speak Studios and Mercedes of Spokane.